Hey, welcome back, guys. So today I want to talk about watermelon. I want to talk about how to grow it, what it needs, all that good stuff. So I have sugar baby watermelons growing in my grow bags here. And I'm just going to quickly walk through what watermelons like, what watermelons need, and what you can do to successfully grow the watermelon. Okay, so first of all, watermelons require a lot of space. So it's a good idea to trellis them to grow vertically. You can train them on a trellis. They are much like cucumber plants where they have the little tendrils that grab onto the trellis and they will climb. So it's a good idea to grow them vertically because then you don't have them sprawling out all over the place. Watermelons need warm weather. It has to be consistently 70 degrees at nighttime, and they need 8 to 10 hours of sun a day. Watermelons love heat. So if you are growing watermelons, you need to make sure that you keep them warm. Keep mulch around the plant because it'll keep the soil warm and it'll keep the soil moist. It also, speaking of soil, it needs good soil, loose soil. It would be a good idea to start with compost rich soil. Compost aids in adding nutrients and it helps with retaining water. Also, they like a lot of water. They need a lot of water. And when you are watering them, you have to water them deeply. They only have one root system. Each plant only has one root system. So you got to make sure you water it deeply, get to that root system, make sure it gets all the water that it needs. Because they have to remain moist, they are susceptible to powdery mildew. So you have to be prepared to use some preventive measures and treatments. You want to spray your plants when you know that powdery mildew is in season, and that way you can prevent it. If you already have powdery mildew, then you have to take the necessary measure to treat it. It's imperative that you have enough time to grow the watermelon. Like I said, I have sugar baby watermelons growing here, so they're smaller watermelons. They take less time to mature. You need at least 60 to 100 days for watermelons to mature. And keep in mind, that's 60 to 100 days of warm weather, consistently 70 degrees at night. And in the Midwest, in Zone 5, I don't have that luxury, so I can't grow the super big watermelons. I am safer with growing the smaller varieties because they take less time to mature. In order to keep the heat from baking your nutrients out of your soil, mulch is also a good idea for that. If you're trying to keep your soil warm or you want to extend the heat, like if it's nearing the end of the season and you're not consistently getting your 70 degrees at night, if you're getting hot days but cool nights, you can cover your soil with like black plastic or perhaps some black weed barrier, and that will attract the sun to the black and it will make sure your soil gets heated, and your mulch will keep that heat then in your soil. So you'll be able to retain some of that heat at nighttime when the temperatures start to get less than desired. Sometimes it needs some staking. You might have to stake your watermelon plant or tie it, use the plant ties or the plant tapes so that the vines, you can tie off the vines as they grow. Because like I said, watermelon is a space hog. If you put this in your garden and you just let it take over, it is going to take over all the space, and those little tendrils will grab onto whatever is in its way. So you want to make sure that you have a control over the vines so that they're not out of control. Watermelons, sometimes because they get so many flowers on them, sometimes they need a little bit of help with pollination. You can take your male flowers and your female flowers, and you just take you can do hand pollinating, you can use Q-tips, you can use a paintbrush, you can even take the male flower off the vine and put it right to the female flower. But you want to make sure that your flowers are getting pollinated. Now, fertilizing. Fertilizing is determined by the current soil condition and by the stage of the plant after that. So if you have a seedling, now keep in mind it's just a seedling, and it hasn't begun vining yet. Just like I have here, my watermelons have not begun vining yet. They're still pretty much young seedlings. I don't want to start giving it any boosts of phosphorus and potassium yet. I want those vines to start coming out, so I want to use a nitrogen-based fertilizer, because nitrogen is mainly for foliage and for leaves. So once it starts flowering and getting fruit, then I will switch to a potassium and a phosphorus-rich food, because they are going to require it. It's best to do a soil test to see what your pH is. Otherwise, if you can start with a compost-rich soil, it would help, because then you'll know that you have the nutrients in your soil, and you'll know that the soil is the pH is good. Otherwise, you can start with like a 5-10-10 fertilizer. If you use a granular type, make sure that you're mixing it in thoroughly. And if you're using that in the beginning when you're transplanting your seedlings, don't put your seedlings right on the fertilizer. That will burn the roots. You want to mix that fertilizer in and then put some soil between the fertilizer and the plant. You don't want to set young seedlings right on top of fertilizer. You'll risk burning the roots. When you top dress with fertilizer, don't touch the leaves, because the leaves are sensitive. You want to water it in well so that it reaches the roots and they can absorb the nutrients. Just before or as soon as it starts to vine, give it another dose of nitrogen, water it in well. Fertilize another time when the fruit appears, but then once the fruit has been fertilized and the fruit is set and you see that the fruit is going to produce, switch from nitrogen-rich fertilizer to a potassium and phosphorus-rich fertilizer. If you are feeding it nitrogen still when the fruit onsets, it's only going to result in foliage and growth of the vine. It will not nourish the fruit. So this is the time when you see those fruits on there, and if you know they've been pollinated, you got to provide that application of phosphorus and potassium-rich fertilizer until the fruit matures. That's basically it. That's everything you need to know in order to grow these watermelons. I hope you enjoyed the video. I had to record the audio after the fact because I don't know what happened to my audio, but I was able to get it all out anyhow. So my video and my audio are not in sync, but hey, as long as I got you guys the information, that's all that matters. So until next time, the more you know, the more you grow. Bye, guys.